Today we are going through the entire ammo progression of Escape from Tarkov 1.0, right from the beginning through to the end game rounds that you need to be using to beat people wearing class 6, which is actually pretty common now in endgame PvP. Now I don't want to spend too much time at level 1 because most people are beyond that, but there are some important considerations that you need to think about, especially if you're starting a wipe midway through or something like that, in that a lot of endgame players now will be using the class 2 Death Shadow face mask, so you need to be using something at least 17 pen to get through that. And then you've also got the throat hitbox, which is either covered by class 2 or class 3, and that goes to the thorax these days, and so you need to be using, again, either 17 pen or 27 pen to get through those. So if you're going in as a new player and you're expecting to use your 8 pen round and you shoot somebody in the face and they're wearing their Death Shadow, they actually won't die. So keep that in mind. That's why I've chosen some of these rounds at level 1 as being important, because endgame players are basically impenetrable for certain types of bullet. Today's video is sponsored by Nakwon Last Paradise, a post-apocalyptic extraction shooter that I've been keeping my eye on. You might remember the original test from 2023 when we last got to see it, and now it's back with another limited time closed alpha, showing off a significantly expanded variety of content. Nakwon is a PvPvE zombie survival game. What makes it interesting is how hard it leans into survival. Guns and ammo especially are really rare, so stealth is much more of a viable strategy in Nakwon than in many other extraction games. This time, we'll be seeing much more of the progression systems within the safe haven as you start as a refugee into the settlement, and Nakwon citizens are required to maintain their shelter in the day and then scavenge from the city at night. The closed test only runs from March the 11th to March the 15th, so sign up on the Steam store and wishlist the game to make sure that you're ready when it goes live. This test is mainly available in North America and some parts of East Asia and South America as well, but pre-alpha test participants can access the game regardless of region, and last time it was fine for me in Europe. So go and check out my link below to sign up and get ready to play the closed test on March the 11th. You can also follow Nakwon Last Paradise on X and Discord too for more updates before the test goes live. So with that said, let's jump straight into the traders at level 1 and start with Mr. Prapor. Now what I'm going to do in this one is I'm actually going to split it into different sections depending on the weapon, so that we're not just going through random bits of ammo. So I'm going to start with SMGs, and I would say that if you're at level 1, first and foremost, and you're not worrying about going through people's death shadows or anything like that, you can basically just grab a Clin and any of these ammos. The best one is probably PMRG028, but it's got 13 pen, so it's only going to go through pairs of glasses and the very, very weak helmet on certain scavs, the Tak. Outside of that, the other ones are lower than this, penetration level 5, which is also super low, so this is not going to really help you do anything at all, so I'd probably just pick this one. It's also got the highest damage of 65, so if you do hit somebody in the leg or the arm, you're going to do the most damage with it, so stick that in a Clin. That is a good starting SMG to use. The best one though, across all of the level 1 traders in my opinion, is on Peacekeeper level 1, and this is what we were talking about a minute ago. You've got 45 ACP Laser Match FMJ, which is a round that isn't used that often, except it's got 19 pen, so as I said, it'll go through class 2 soft armor on the neck, it'll go through Death Shadows on the face, and it has 76 damage, which is really, really high. It means that you're blacking out people's arms in an individual shot, and you can use this in the UMP. Now, you won't have this immediately, straight away, but you can barter it with Peacekeeper for knives, and I think it's quite a good one to start with. Next, we're going to talk about rifles. Now, in this category, you can basically not buy anything that's any good at all until about level 3 traders even. And so you're going to be wanting to try to find ammo in raid rather than using stuff on the traders directly, especially for the rifle calibers and 545 in particular, because you can find it all over the place. And I've talked about this in a few videos. You can go to USEC Camp on Woods, you can go to the ammo attachment shack on Woods as well. You can go anywhere on reserve. There's some rooms on streets too, so go and have a look at those up if you want to find them. The best ammo that you can get other than this is 545 US. This one is okay again because it's 17 pen, gives you a recoil reduction, which you probably need on the level 1 guns, and again this can go through class 2 armor, which sometimes scavs are wearing, and again PMCs are often wearing this on their face. It does allow you to at least have the ability to kill them. Moving up in caliber power, we'll move up to Skier level 1, and on here you've got 762 SP. This is good because it gives you a base benchmark to be able to use something like the SKS or the VPO, and clearly you want to be finding ammo for this in raid as well, PS and T45M from scavs, but this one has 20 pen, which again, it can go through people's face protection if they're wearing it, so this is a good staple. The best one for rifles, probably at level 1 though, is over on Jaeger. This goes in the other VPO, the 209, and also the 215, the bolt action, and this is 366 TKM FMJ with 23 pen. So again, this is not going to go through class 3 helmets or anything, so it's not that great, but it does have 98 damage, which is a hell of a lot actually, and it'll go through all of those class 2 armors. Now, unfortunately, although it has 23 penetration and a 98 damage. You might think that this would kill somebody who's not wearing armor or going through class 2 neck protection. Unfortunately, 23 pen gets caught in this kind of damage mitigation regime. If I pull over Tarkov Gunsmith just for 1 second, you can see here that 23 pen and 98 damage going through a class 2 armor piece into the thorax. We've just used the Corunt here, for example, because that's probably one of the most commonly used armors that has class 2 neck. This thing has a 95% chance of penetrating, but it only deals 70 damage. So unfortunately, this will not kill the enemy if you hit them in the neck with this round, which is why I tend to favor the faster fire rate stuff, because you really want to get one of those face shots on with something that you can just fire a bit more and spam a bit more, which is why I think probably one of the SMGs is better at the lower levels, unless you are trying to snipe or something. Speaking of snipers, if you want to pack something with a bit more of a punch like a Mosin, you can buy 54R SP over on Skier. This allows you to take 31 pen into raid with 92 damage. This one actually will one-shot to the chest if you get into that class 2 neck area, because 31 pen is enough to avoid the damage mitigation. It won't kill through class 3 though, because you have the same problem with 31 against class 3 armor, but it will go through those class 2s, and not everybody's wearing class 3. This also allows you to get through the class 3 helmet as well, although it will bounce off a class 4. Now, I know some people are a fan of leg meta as well. I'm not really a fan of it at the low levels, because the damage that you get on some of these rounds, like we were looking over it with Prapor, with the RGO 28, it's only got 65 damage, so you have to hit them a lot. I mean, you could technically use something like AKBS, which has got 58 damage in a PPSH, shoot people in the legs. I mean, it can work, but if you're playing against anybody who has some time behind them, they're just going to kill you in 2 to 3 hits to the chest while you're trying to get like 7 or 8 shots off on to the leg. And tactically, it's quite tricky because you can't have any lean peak battles down corridors or whatever. You've strictly got to hit them directly in the face, and again, using these rounds you won't go through the death shadow, so it just gets really complicated. The only time that I think it's maybe worth it, if you go on Jaeger, you can go and grab some of his buckshots. It doesn't really matter which one you use. 6.5 moves the fastest, 525 retains slightly more damage over distance, and you can kill people with 2 or 3 hits of these out of a shotgun at close range, which can be quite good if you surprise somebody. But again, don't expect to win in a one-on-one confrontation if somebody's using anything basically from level 2 traders and above, because they're just going to kill you. So you're going to have to rat somebody and surprise them with this. Before we move on, let's go to Fence for a second. It's worth a check on him. Sometimes he has good stuff. So over here, I mean, we've got SP. You can actually buy some 7.62 54R FMJ. So that's 36 pen. So in a Mosin, this will go through class 4. So this is actually pretty good. You can 2-shot somebody to the thorax wearing, I don't know, like an MMAC or a Banshee or something, which is pretty good. It just depends on what he's got at the time, so go and have a little look and see. This one, for example, 45 match FMJ. This is the upgrade to laser match that we saw before, and this has 25 pen, so this one's not bad. So have a little browse around. You might be able to buy ammos in here that you can't buy normally. Now, the next stage of progression comes from the Workbench. You'll normally get Workbench level 1 before you get to level 2 traders. So we'll go and have a look at a few specific ones in here. Some of them are quest locked and some of them are not. That's what you'll often find about the Workbench. The first one that we want to look at is PSTM for the Clin. This one only works in the Clin, unfortunately, so you can't put in the Kedda. You actually have to get the Clin. There is a Clin craft in here though, so you could turn a Kedda into a Clin if you want to. And this one is called PSTM. And it only uses one of these gunpowders, which you can also make in the Workbench, and you get 140 PMM PSTMs. And this is okay because it has 24 penetration, so again, that goes through the Death Shadow Mask and the class 2 neck armor, has 58 damage, so you're gonna have to shoot them twice, but the fire rate of the Clin is really fearsome, and so this could be a relatively decent choice. If you want to upgrade your rifles a little bit, then you can also grab this 7.62 by 39 FMJ with 26 pen. It's a little bit better than the soft point one that we saw on Skier. This can go in your AKMs, your Vepa 136s, that kind of thing. And with 63 damage, it's not bad. So you can make that if you really want. For shotguns, we do have an interesting choice over here, which is Piranha. Piranha is normally only on Jaeger level 2, and this thing is decent because although it has 24 pen, it has 10 darts that go out and each one works sequentially, so you can slowly just degrade down somebody's armor even if they're wearing class 4 and kill them in maybe 2 or 3 volleys if you're close and on target. And it doesn't lose much damage over distance either. So it does 25 damage per dart, and it shoots out 10 of them, so it's technically 250 damage. So it is quite a lot, and you can make this in Workbench level 1 out of nails and a Hawk gunpowder. This is normally the one that I use to complete setup. Now, according to the wiki, you can actually get Flechette at level 1 as well, but you actually need to finish setup before you get this, unfortunately. And Flechette is the big brother of Piranha and is normally only on Jaeger level 3. This has 31 pen, so this deals with class 4 and 5 armor actually relatively well because, again, this has 8 pellets, not quite as many as Piranha does. So it's got 8 darts with 25 each, so the overall damage is slightly lower. But this is really powerful against just center of mass at the top in general, because you're going to go through all those face shields, you're going to go through the class 3 armor around the neck, and you can deal some serious damage to people. I've often killed people in literally a single shot. Sometimes it can be a bit inconsistent against really high-end armor, but occasionally you just fire a blast off and they just die instantly. It can be nuts. The final one in here that BSG actually added back this wipe is APM. If you complete Tarkov Shooter 3, you can craft this, which you need PS to make it, so you can't buy PS. So you might want to, if you're targeting this, keep some 7.62 PS around or try to find some on fence. Sniper scavs have it occasionally, along with T46M and regular scavs as well. So keep some of this PS. You can combine it with these Hawk gunpowders, and this allows you to make 60 APM, which is probably one of the most powerful cartridges that you can make early, with 42 penetration and 90 damage. This is very similar to M80, which is one of the best rounds in the game and is on Peacekeeper 4 and quest locked. So if you can get access to this and stick it either in the VPO 2-on-5 for doing sniping style quests, or put it in the VPO 209 and use it as a semi-auto DMR type thing, medium range, this can allow you to really punch above your weight. You've got to do Tarkov Shooter 3 first before you get access to this, but this is one of the strongest ammos you can get at Workbench level 1. Now, normally in this video, I would talk about the Flea Market and the amount of ammo that you can get on the Flea Market from players, but ammo has been banned for a while on the Flea Market, and ammo packs also currently are not available on the Flea. I've talked about this a bit recently. BSG keep flip-flopping on this, and I think it's because it keeps introducing bugs where people can sell ammo in one quantity because they've managed to unload the other 20 from the ammo pack and leave one in there and scam people, and there was a duplication bug, so currently you can't buy ammo packs on the Flea Market. But keep an eye out on this space because I think BSG might put it back in again, and this is a really good way of getting those ammos once you get to the required level. Not everything could be bought at level 15, quite a few of them were gated behind certain levels, but if it does come back, then look out for those 545 BTs and anything that's in that kind of mid-game area that you might be able to buy early, even something like M855 for the M4. Right now it's not accessible, but do check it out if BSG make an adjustment. Depends on when you watch this video. They may have changed something. So heading back to the traders, we're looking at SMGs again. On Prapor, you can buy PSTM. This is the one that we just looked at for crafting in the Workbench. So you can get this from him. 24 pen. Again, it's a face tapper only. He also does have another one here, which is the PBM. It has less damage with 40 only, but it has 28 pen instead. So this actually can start to deal with class 3. And this is interesting because PBM fits not only in the Clin, but also in the Kedda. And at level 2, you can buy the Kedda B from Prapor. So this is a relatively good option for just a quick run and gun, and you'll be suppressed as well. It has almost no recoil, so it's perfect for shooting at faces. We spoke before about Peacekeeper having probably the best level 1 ammo, and over at level 2 he has the next grade up, which we just saw on Fence actually, the 45 match FMJ, which is 72 damage and 25 pen. Again, this is scary just because it's got so much damage on it. It's not as much as a face tapper as the Kedda and Clin stuff, because slightly lower fire rate on the UMP, and 25 pen is okay. It's about in line with the others, but you kind of just want lots of chances to hit the face. But this is decent too. This is quite good for dealing with scavs and low-level players without much armor. But to get any serious penetration at level 2, you have to move up to the rifles. So we're going to pop back over to Prapor again to look at probably one of the strongest things that you can get at level 2, which is this, the 545 BT ammo barter. 545 BT has 37 penetration, which makes it extremely powerful. You can find this in raid, but this gives you a source of it so you can at least top load a couple of magazines, and this will deal with class 4. This requires 2 counts of Tushonka. They're not usually that expensive. If you can try and grab these for under 20k, then that can well be worth it, especially because you just can't buy anything else that good at this trader level. And this again will fit into your AK-74Us or your AK-74Ms, whatever you want to choose. I normally choose the shorties just because the recoil is kind of similar on both. You get more ergo and you can fight more easily inside and around corners, which is probably where you're going to be using these starter guns, because long range people are going to have scopes and they're going to outshoot you. The other barter that you get over on Prapor now is for a pack of Marlboros. This is actually much cheaper than the BT version. Marlboro is only 14,000 for a pack of those, and this allows you to buy something for 762 by 39, or this gives you a route to craft the APMs that we looked at a moment ago, because you can't buy PS until level 3 normally. Otherwise, you've got to grab it in raid. So this is a good way to grab that. You could put that again in the SKS or the AKM or any of those particular weapons, the VPO 136. But failing that, the best one if you want to just use a particular ammo and not have to do the barter is this guy, SP5. I talk about this pretty much in all of my early game ones because SP5 has got 28 penetration, which deals with class 3, and you get access to the VSK on Prapor. A lot of Prapor's weapons work quite nicely because you get a weapon that goes with the ammo at the time at that right trader level, because sometimes you get an ammo but then you can't really buy the gun for it. For example, things like this, the 9x21s, you can't get the SR2M until later on, so you can't really use these ammos. So the SP5 is quite quite a good one just for run and gun. If you want to use something like the VSK, I'll just show you here. And this comes with an integrated suppressor. It's only 54k, so this is really budget and pretty effective for the trader level that we're talking about. One other alternative, over on Jaeger, you have yet another 366 ammo, which they are pretty powerful, honestly, in a vacuum. And you've got TK and EKO, which has got 30 pen and 73 damage. I tend to use this when I don't have APM and I need to do some of the random quests using sniper rifles to kill scavs, so you could use this in the VPO 215. And 30 penetration will go through most scav equipment, so this just makes it cheap and easy to run those and complete those up to Tarkov shooter, whatever, before you have to start killing players with them. Now, speaking about sniping, there are two interesting ammos you can get at trader level 2. One of them is on mechanic, and this is a 1.0 specific thing we've only seen this wipe. After all the movements around that we saw with the Marlin, you can now buy the 308 ME round on mechanic, but you need to buy a cowboy hat. So you can buy one of these from the Flea Market. 308 ME is very, very powerful for level 2 traders at least, and this is because it has 42 penetration and 80 damage. So it is somewhat similar to M80 again, which is sort of our benchmark for like good rounds or decent rounds. So this will deal with class 4 armor. The Marlin is much more semi-auto than a normal bolt action, sort of halfway between, because it's got the repeater action to it, so it's much quicker than a regular bolt action, which has made quests like Shooter Board in Heaven way more doable. But this is really powerful at level 2 traders, and there's a reason why people are using the Marlin a lot this wipe. Cowboy hats have gone down in price quite a bit. I think currently they're about 26k, so this isn't really that much. It's about 1,000 a round. You're not firing that many of them, so this is all right, and you do get access to it later on mechanic level 3 as well. But as an intermediate, if you just need something that's more powerful to do some of these sniping quests, then this can be a good option. The other sniper ammo that you can get at level 2 traders, if you manage to get your hands on a Mosin or an SV98 or something, is this one that we looked at before as well, 54R FMJ. This guy has 36 pen and 84 damage, so again, we're dealing with class 4 armor at this point. This is a 2 or 3 shot kill through a monoclete level 4 plate. So if you prefer that short burst of damage type of gameplay, then these can be a good option. Also, you sometimes can just find like an SVT on a scav. If you do a scav run and you get given an SVT or an AVT, you can use this in that and then take that into your PMC raids. Now, not everybody has ref, but some people do, so I'm just going to go through the ammo over on ref. There's only two that I think are really good here. One of them is PP, 545 PP. You might want to consider getting this. I think you should try and find this in raid rather than spending GP coins on it personally. But if you're desperate and you want something that's got, I think this is 34 pen in that region, so it's all right, then you can try using this. You can also buy 556 SOST, which is effectively the equivalent for 556. This sits somewhere between M855 and M856A1, again, around the 34 pen mark. So this means that you can use your G36s or your AUGs or whatever with a little bit more powerful punch, because you don't really get that much good 556 ammo at level 2 traders. Okay, so next up, we're going to switch back to the hideout, and we're going to go to look at what else we have over on the workbench. For the P90, at this point, you might be able to buy the P90 from the Flea. So we have for the 5.7 L191 round, which is 33 pen and 53 damage, which as far as SMGs go isn't too bad. This is going to go through those easy face shields, and you have high RPM, so this one is pretty good. P90's low recoil, so that's pretty nice. We also have the ability to make SOST as well, and this is the one that we saw on ref a second ago with its 33 pen and 53 damage. You can actually just make this in the workbench, so if you need an alternative to M855, which currently you can't buy the boxes off the Flea from other players, that's normally what I would say to you to do, is to go and buy M855 from players on the Flea Market in box format, but right now you can't do that, so failing that, you can craft some of this here or buy it off ref. And then you can also get 762 BCP FMJ. This one is pretty good. This is 37 penetration, so this is kind of up there. This is, I would say 37 pen is kind of like the starting pen for doing like serious PvP, because this is dealing with class 4 armor, which a lot of people still wear just because they just stick it on and it's throwaway. So this will kill people in 2 or 3 shots to the chest, and it's a cheap craft as well because it only requires 2 of these kite gunpowders. This can go in weapons like the RFB, or maybe a FAL if you pick that up off a scav, something like that. There are a few ways that you can bring this to bear early on in your progression. The sniping, you still have the possibility of making LPS. This is 42 pen and 81 damage. Again, this can go in the SVT. If you do find an SVD maybe lying around, or the Mosin is probably the most obvious one, you could put that in here. This is to stop you from having to use T46M, which is a tracer, so if you're sniping from long range, then people will be able to see you. But I think the SVT is not a bad choice for this, honestly, because it's semi-automatic. It's a bit like the SVD at home. But like anything in Tarkov, you put good enough bullets in and it'll deal with people no problem. 42 pen is really nice to have though, because it means it'll go through class 4 helmets in one shot, and almost everybody is wearing class 4 helmets as the max, because you can't go higher than that without losing your hearing or having to do some kind of meta combination like the Proflex in-ears and then like an ult-in or a Tagilla face shield or something. So those are like rare. You do see them from time to time, but for run and gun most of the time, most players are using class 4, so you will be able to one-shot through the helmet using these, which is where you really start to see that power spike in PvP. If you're a shotgun fan, you can get BMG. I don't like these at all. I know some people love slugs. I don't like slugs whatsoever. 200 damage, 26 pen. I don't think the penetration justifies using them. It's just going to get absorbed. You need to hit them a few times with these to actually go through a class 4 armor, for example. I think you're much better off just using a rifle or having something where you just get more shots to kill. Something like that. The penetration's not high enough to actually go through and destroy people in one shot, unfortunately. So I don't like them, but you can make them if you want, if you're a shotgun slug enjoyer and you want to shoot people from long range for a quest like Setup, for example. And then there's a couple of quest locked ones that I want to point out to you. So PAB9, so we looked before at SP5 for the VSK. You could technically make this PAB9 if you do Test Drive Part 1. Now, I know that is quite a long way down Prepall's guide, but you can go and have a look and see which tasks you need to complete that. Test Drive Part 1 is a lot easier now than it used to be, so this could be something you're aiming for maybe in the mid-game. It's probably not really accessible right at Workbench level 2 kind of level, but it's something to think about because 43 pen and 62 damage is really good. It's one of the better ammos that you can make relatively early, so long as you complete that quest. So if you do want to just beeline down that task and do all of the quests up until that point, up to Test Drive 1, then you can start making this, which means that you can use the VSK or even upgrade to the good guns like the AS Val, which you can buy from the Flea Market. The final one that's quest locked in here is 545 PP. I don't really consider making this as a good option because at that point you've probably got other ammo that you found in Raid. I think you should just be finding this stuff in Raid. It's only 34 pen, it's not that good, and 545 is the most plentiful ammo in Raid that is of decent quality, and you should be really using either BT, BP, BS, whatever it is that you're finding, rather than making this in the Workbench. But if you are desperate, it's there. Unfortunately, you probably want this for Punisher Part 3, so by the time that you've done it, you probably don't need it anymore. So, back to the traders again for level 3. This is where your world kind of opens out and the amount of choices that you have that are reasonable or accessible is really quite a lot better. For SMGs, let's start again with SMGs. We've got 9x19 AP 6.3. I often think this is a bit of a trap because it's only 30 penetration. Bear in mind that you could buy stuff up to 28 pen on Prepper level 2 for the Clin and the Kedda. It's really not that much better than that. But it's there if you want it. If you want to use it in something that's got a high RPM, like the Vector or the MPX, for example, it does give you at least something that's a bit better than PST. This will struggle with Class 4 helmets, so you're going to have to shoot somebody 3 times or something in the head if they're wearing a TC 2001 and 2002, which is why I think this is a bit of a trap, but you can make it work. It's not the worst ammo in the world, but it's an option. We also have L191. We talked about this a second ago because you can craft this in the Workbench. This is for really the P90. 33 pen, it's a little bit better, but not much. And then over on Prepper level 3, we have this guy, which is 9x21 BT. Again, this is 32 pen. You can kind of see a reoccurring theme here. The damage here is not bad either, 52. This goes into the SR2M. There are some quests for the SR2M. Whether I'd recommend this or not, I think it's okay, but I think at this level, you're probably better off with the rifles at this point because 30 pen, as I said, it's a bit of a value trap because it won't really deal with Class 4. Anyone against Class 5 is going to feel like an enormous bullet sponge tank, and Class 6 is just basically impenetrable unless you hit them in the face. So if you want to use them, you can. I personally don't, but we're going through everything, so we should point them out. Moving up to rifles, let's jump back to Peacekeeper a second. Here we've now got M855. This is only 31 pen, but the range on the M4 is quite a lot different. Like if you compare, for example, AP 6.3 with 392 meters per second versus M855 with 922 meters per second, there is just a huge difference in terms of the type of engagement that you can just take with M855 versus the SMGs, which is why, even though it's only 31 pen, I still think it's kind of like your staple and that you should think about using it. Especially as a stacker round, it's like one of those that you can just stack underneath at the bottom of magazines. And if you found M856A1 or something else like that, M855A1 even, you could put those on the top and have this stuff underneath just in case. This is the level where you now, over on Prepper, you get to buy 7.62 PS, which is 35 pen. I think the slow fire rates on these make me feel less positive about 7.62 PS at trader levels 3 with 61 damage and 35 pen versus even something like M855. Just because of the difference in fire rate, I think you do need that extra fire rate heft to get through armor and whatever, but at least you can buy it here now. And then probably the best one is over on Jaeger 3, which we saw in the Workbench, which is the BCP FMJ, which is 37 pen, which as I said is kind of the borderline for beginning PvP properly with 83 damage. So this is powerful. This can kill people for sure. It'll go through the class 3 soft armors, so you can't protect the neck against this anymore. It'll go through class 4 helmets 50% of the time, and you can put it in some full auto guns like the FAL if you can go and find those. Or you can actually buy the AK-308 at level 25 now off the Flea Market. So this is not a bad thing to combine with that if you want something with a good lump of heft. So moving up in cartridge power, if you are sniping, you can now buy from Prepper directly T46M. This is 41 pen and 82 damage. For sniping, again, unfortunately, this does have a tracer in it, so people will be able to see where you're shooting from. You can use this with the SVT, as we said before, or with the Mosin. This will go through class 4 helmets in one shot outside of ricochets. It's very, very unlikely to not one-shot them. You're unlucky if it doesn't. Sometimes it won't, but you're unlucky if it doesn't. So this can be a choice there. But my preference is over on Mechanic 3, where you can directly buy 308 ME at this point. We looked at this already in the boxes, 42 pen and 80 damage. This is also going to cleanly go through class 4 helmets. And in the Marlin, this is clearly the superior choice from a meta perspective, or just what's best to use. This combined with the Marlin to do bolt action missions. 1.0, it's just the easiest way. I did almost all of my quests with the Marlin, with the exclusion of Lighthouse, because the distances are really, really, really quite far. So I went with the suppressed SV98 with something a little bit better for that particular mission. But outside of that, I did 95% of the other bolt action quests using the Marlin. For shotgun enjoyers, if you do like the shotgun, and I have been killed by this a few times, over on level 3, you can now get Flechette directly. There's no quest for this, you can just buy it. We talked about this before. Blast at center of mass. Hopefully you hit the head. It'll go through class 4 helmets after about 2 or 3 darts. It'll smash through the neck armor, and it'll kill people to the face with only 2 of these Flechette darts. So this can be really good. It's better close up, obviously. One weird thing about it is because the bullet velocity is so low, if you do shoot people from far away, yes, you do suffer from this like drift of the pellets moving apart as you go further away, but the damage doesn't really decrease. So it is worth pot shotting at people because the damage in the pen doesn't really go down because the velocity is already so low. It doesn't really lose anything as it flies through the air. The ballistic coefficient of this is honestly much better than you'd think. So you can hit people at 40, 50 meters if you just spray at them with darts and stuff, and it can cause decent damage, black legs out, give people bleeds, give people things to think about. So I always think Flechette is better than people give it credit for, if it is a little bit inconsistent. Now, level 3 traders is really the point at which leg meta starts to become a proper option, rather than having to shoot somebody 14 times in the leg to kill them. Because over on Peacekeeper, you start to get ammos like this one, 45 ACP Hydra Shock. This thing has 100 damage. So this is a serious amount of damage. Now do remember that once you've blacked somebody's leg, you will only do 70% of the damage spread through the rest of their body. So the first shot will deal 100 minus the leg, and then the rest is spillover. And then after that, it'll deal 70 damage to their actual HP player pool. So it does take a little bit longer to kill than you might think. It's not 5 shots and they're done. But 6 shots or so you can put out extremely quickly with a weapon like the Vector, for example. You don't need RIP. You can definitely kill people with the Vector with this, no problem. Or even something like the MPX with the 850 fire rate is enough. People sometimes don't see this coming, and this one can be pretty good. We've got another one over on Mechanic. There's another leg meta around here, which is for the P90. With the P90's 900 RPM, this could also be quite good, and this is 98 damage, so this is very similar to Hydra Shock. And with the 50 rounders on the P90, this can be really, really quite good. And then the final one is over on Jaeger. This is not necessarily leg meta per se, but you can buy Magnum Buckshot, which does 50 damage per pellet, and there's 8 pellets, so that's 400 potential raw damage. 2 shots can kill somebody if you hit them with enough pellets. You can actually also kill people by hitting them in the face with this, and because the damage is 50 rather than about 30 something like a lot of the other ones, most of them, if you take a single pellet from 7 or buckshot, for example, over 10 or 20 meters, it actually won't kill the player. So you got to get lucky and get 2 of them. Whereas with Magnum Buck, you can just spray, and if one of them hits the face, I think you can get the headshot out to even 70 meters or something, because the damage on the individual pellets has to go down from 50 to 35 before it won't anymore, which is actually kind of insane. So Magnum Buck can be crazy. You do have to watch out for the extra recoil, so you have to be practiced with it a little bit. It's one of the reasons why I don't use it that much, because I'm very used to the regular buckshot and Flechette and Piranha, which don't have any recoil adjustment. Recoil is a lot more using these, so if you get used to Magnum Buck, then it can be worth it, but it does make your shotguns quite wild when you're firing them. But again, you only need to shoot somebody 2 or 3 times, especially close up, and they'll fall over, regardless of what armor they're wearing. Ref pulls out a few more interesting options at level 3 traders than he had before. You've got SS190, which you can supplement the L191. This goes in the P90, and this has 37 pen, so this means that you can actually deal with class 4 armors properly and deal with class 4 helmets on probably the second shot, 50-50 whether you go through on the first one. So this just gives you a little bit more option if you do want to use it. We've got CBJ, which is one of the best ammos in the game for rifles without having to do any questing or anything like that, which is quite cool. This goes in the MCX. CBJ has 43 pen, so it's a really, really good ammo. You've also got M80 over here. If you haven't unlocked it on Peacekeeper level 4 yet, then you can get it from Ref. And this gives you a little bit more flexibility for some sort of like mid to end game-ish rounds if you're not quite there yet in progression and you want to supplement with a little bit of this and you've got some spare GP. Now, before you get to level 4 traders, again, you're probably going to get Workbench level 3 before that. Now, you can make AP 6.3 in here, which I don't really think is worth making, but you can build it here if you want to. The fact that it's on Peacekeeper level 3 means you really don't need to make this in the hideout. The ones that could be good is SS190, for example. So this one we just saw on Ref, but you can actually make it yourself if you get to Workbench level 3 early, before you get up to level 4 traders. So this can be quite good to use the P90. You've also got 45 AP, which you can't buy in any format up until level 4 traders at all. And this inside either the UMP or the Vector is amazing. 66 damage, super good for an SMG round of this type. And 38 penetration is really up there on SMG bullets as well. And this could be super good. I've used 45 AP before in the endgame in a Vector, and the sheer fire rate of the 45 Vector means that people just fall over, even if they're wearing decent armor, because you hit them in the head a couple of times, or you hit them in the neck, or even just powering through the armor. You can get through a Karund in about 6 shots. Eventually they do just die. So if you've got high enough fire rate, this stuff could be really good. And I would mention as well, quite a while ago now, but BSG did decrease the times on these by quite a lot, so they only take 2 hours to make. I've got relatively high crafting, but it's 2 or 3 hours and you could get yourself 100 of these rounds, which you then get to supplement with something else like Match FMJ off Peacekeeper if you don't have enough. Now we're up to level 4 traders, and level 4 traders give you that stable supply of decent stuff. It's not necessarily the best ammo in the game, because usually that's reserved for the end of Workbench level 3 that we'll go through in a second. But beginning again with SMGs, we've got PvP, which is 44 damage and 39 pen. I personally think that this round deserves a big buff. It used to have the same damage as AP 6.3 with 52, and even then it wasn't overpowered in my opinion. BSG nerfed this down to 44, and I think that was criminal, because this round now, I don't think it's actually that good. If you're at extreme close ranges, the 39 pen can be useful. But one of the problems with this is that the way that Tarkov's bullet velocity system works with the damage drop off, and 9mm in particular, means that this bullet loses its speed extremely quickly out of the barrel. The problem with that is that it means the damage and the penetration drop off extremely quickly as well. And I'm going to show you Tarkov Gunsmith on the ballistics drop calculator to show you this. So for example, if we're using 9x19 and we're putting it in, let's just say a Vector for argument's sake, we'll put it on the long barrel and we're going to use PvP in here. When you calculate this, you can see that at the beginning it starts off with 39 penetration and 44 damage, but very quickly if you take it up to 50 meters, which I know 50 meters is pretty far for an SMG engagement, but at 50 meters you're at 31 pen and 35 damage. This is terrible. This means that you're not going to be able to hit somebody in the head and kill them unarmored at 50 meters using this particular bullet, and also with 31 penetration this puts it on par with AP 6.3 at close range. So you do have to be very careful with PvP, because it only really works over about 10 meters, maybe 20. After that, you're not going to be going through class 4 helmets anymore, and this makes it really tricky. So I think PvP needs a bit of a damage buff, honestly, or a bit of a pen buff or something. If it's going to have this extreme drop-off curve, it's probably the worst example for this in the entire game. So use it, but use it at your own peril. Over on Peacekeeper, we do get access to SS190 for the P90, which is your staple round, 37 pen, deals with class 4. We also get 45 AP now. We don't need to craft this in the Workbench anymore. 38 pen and 66 damage. This is super good, as I said, in the Vector 45. If you want to use the SR2M, and you do need to use it for certain quests, you can now buy 7M42s of below, 38 pen, 49 damage. This is very similar to something like SS190. And then the best SMG ammo on level 4 traders at least is probably from Mechanic 4.6 FMJ SX, which is for the MP7, which with 40 pen means that it cleanly deals with class 4 no problem. Damage is a little low at 43, but the MP7 has a fire rate of 950, which means that it clears through people very quickly. You can see this if you play Arena. It's very strong in that game as well. Unfortunately for FMJSX, you have to complete import first, so go and look up where import is in the particular quest queue. So you have to do that. This one is quest locked, the others aren't. This one is. It's probably because it's one of the better rounds, so make sure you've got the stuff for it, because you need a few high-tech items to get that one completed. For the rifle calibers, let's go back to Prapor. You can now buy 545 BT directly. This goes in the AKs. You're going to use this as your stacking round with good stuff like BP, BS, Igolnik, and 7N40 on top that you found in Raid. You can also buy SPP, which is a stacking round for the 9x39 caliber. So this is your VSSs, your AS Vals with 35 pen. It's so-so, but yeah, if you don't have anything else and you don't want to use all of your SP6 and BP that you found in Raid, this is the one that you use underneath in the lower of the magazines. You don't lose everything when you die. And over on Peacekeeper, you can buy M856A1, which is the bare minimum for 556 if you're using it for PvP with 38 pen, because this is a 60% chance to go through class 4 helmets, so this is okay. It is a tracer though, so people will know where you're shooting from. One of the better ammos over on Prapor again, we're just slowly moving up in caliber power here. We've got 762 PP. This one only has 41 pen, which is a little unfortunate, but it does have 39 damage and it goes through class 4 helmets, so this is actually okay to use. This goes in your RDs or your mutants at the end game, and normally you'd stack this with 762 BP on top. Back to Peacekeeper again, we've got another very similar bullet to that, which is CBJ. This is in the MCX. I love CBJ. I think it's so good. 43 pen and 58 damage, but coming out of a weapon with 800 RPM. I really think it's quite good, honestly. And the MCX has had some pretty good buffs this wipe. I've done a whole video about the MCX and about all the new components. It's on par with a kind of like mid to high tier M4 these days. Not like cutting edge, but it doesn't cost as much either. So I think the MCX is good, and it does a lot more damage than the M4 does as well. So there's definitely some benefits to using CBJ, and you can buy a lot of it. You can buy it on Peacekeeper, you can buy it on Ref, you can technically barter it from Mechanic too as well if you do test drive all the way to the end. And this appears at level 3 here. You do have to have test drive 6 unlocked. You don't need to have it completed, you need to have it unlocked, and you can use these MGTs, which aren't really used for anything else. 56k at the moment, so maybe a bit too much. But you can buy it from a few different places, which makes it quite good. It means that you don't need to worry about stacking. You can just buy loads of it and just fill your mags. Peacekeeper 4 is also where we get M80. This one you need to complete Revision Lighthouse. This is a classic. This has been required for a long time. You're going to need this to make some of the endgame rounds that we're going to talk about in the Workbench a little bit later, so it is an important one to unlock. And with 43 pen, which has slowly been increased over time actually, it's more powerful than it even used to be, and 80 damage, you can actually get away with this in some PvP fights simply because the armor damage is so high and the regular damage is so high. This is great for fighting bosses as well. The high damage goes some way to offset the high health pools they've got on the bosses and the guards. Rogues and raiders as well sort of come into that category too. So this is a really good round. It's like the staple of the end game in my opinion. We also have PS12B. I know some people like the Ash 12. I don't really like the Ash 12 at all. 46 pen and 102 damage is really good. It'll go through class 5 pretty readily and will kill people in 2 shots to the chest, so that is decent. But I find the Ash 12 just too difficult to use. It's too cumbersome, the recoil is too high. I'd just rather use something else. And then the best round probably overall on level 4 traders is SP6. I don't have this unlocked because you need to do capturing outposts to get this. 48 pen and 60 damage, it's much akin to 762 BP. But coming out of one of those weapons, the VSS, the Val, and those kind of guns, they have 900 RPM, so this thing is truly terrifying. You do have to manage the heat, but BSG have decreased the heat on a lot of these weapons these days, which means that you can fire 2 or 3 mags without getting a jam, which is a big improvement if you're using something like the Val or the VSS or the SR3M, or even the new ASVAL Mod 4. But you do need to do capturing outposts, which is a bit of a miserable task, and I don't normally bother because it's not kappa required either. For DMR/sniping, we unlock 762 PS after completing Punisher Part 6, which is the quest that you probably want it for, but never mind. This has 45 pen and 84 damage, so it's pretty good. And if you do want to use something like the AXMC, over on Jaeger, you can get 338 Lapua Magnum FMJ. This has 47 pen and 122 damage. The big problem with this ammo is that if you're wearing class 5 with class 3 underneath, it will not kill you in one shot. It's the biggest problem with this cartridge in general. I think that the penetration on the Lapua FMJ should be increased to 50. That means that it won't go through class 6 in one hit. It won't insta-kill through class 6, I should say, but it will go through 5+3. So this thing will one-shot to the chest through a Corund, but it won't one-shot to the chest through a Defender. So just something to bear in mind. This is the reason why I don't think the AXMC is really worth using over something like the M700, because the ammo that you can get for the AXMC doesn't really help you. The only final one here, which is a consideration, is some more leg meta stuff. You get 9x19 rip on mechanic level 4. This has 102 damage. This isn't really far off the other ones that we were talking about before that sit at around 100 damage, and it's relatively expensive, kind of hard to get enough of it, but you could potentially use this in a Vector if you wanted. This is like a 5 or 6 hit to kill to the legs, so it can be good if you really do like leg meta. It's just another option in your arsenal. Now, there's quite a few in here that are locked behind quests, so we'll go through a few of these now, and some of them are super end game. So these are actually going to come after level 4 traders. For the MP7, you can get APSX in the Workbench. You have to complete the guide. This is the highest pen SMG round in the game with 53 penetration. So this will not go through class 6 on the first shot, but it's got like a 30% chance through class 6 and it's 95% chance through class 5. So anybody who's just using a run-of-the-mill class 5 armor, you'll just obliterate them with this. It does take 3 hits because it's one of the lowest damage ammos in the game with 35, which means that over about 5 meters, you can't even kill somebody with an unarmored head over that distance because of the damage drop off, because it deals 34 and they don't die, which is slightly unfortunate. I think the APSX damage should be increased maybe to 37 or something just to prevent that a little bit. But either way, you can craft this in the Workbench. You do need to have FMJ unlocked before you can make this, but the craft other than that is relatively cheap, so it's not too bad. But the guide, people worry about the guide, but the guide's actually one of the easier quests of the endgame quests in my opinion. It's just kind of tedious. You can use transits these days to do the guide. I did that, and some of the maps are really fast now. Going from Lighthouse, you spawn in, and then you can go straight to Path to Shoreline, and then straight out of Path to Lighthouse back to get out of the quest. Sometimes it's really easy. Another trick for the guide is if you transit into labs, you could just leave immediately without getting a run through, and so that counts. You can go through the backpackless extract or maybe sewers, whichever one that you're closest to. But if you've already spent 5 minutes in factory or streets beforehand, before you transit in, you can immediately leave out of labs without having to wait the 7 minutes you normally would. So the guide, I would argue, since the transit system was introduced, it's actually a bit easier than it used to be. Next, you've got M855A1. I actually haven't done this quest myself. This one is Your Car Needs a Service. This is a later game quest on streets where you have to go to the car dealership, unlock a door, unlock another door, and go in and get the USB drive. Apparently this is bugged right now, so the door can't be unlocked, but the USB drive is on the floor just outside the door itself. Again, I haven't done this one yet myself, but this unlocks M855A1, which is one of the better ammos for 5.56. We've then got 300 AP, which is really decent. This is a bit like 7.62 BP, but fired out of an MCX. You have to do the cleaner. To get this, you have to kill 50 raiders on reserve, which is quite a lot, but you might get it done eventually, given this is the permanent account. And then the final rifle caliber one is 7.62 BP, which I do have unlocked here. And this is 47 pen, 58 damage, one of the better rounds in the game. And this comes after doing Intimidator. You have to get to level 45. After that, it's just killing scavs. But level 45 is the biggest blocker for this one. But this is available in the Workbench level 3 once you get all the way up to level 45. Now, the final ones that are Class 6 busters are 7.62 by 54R BT, which you can get after completing Tarkov Shooter Part 7. This one is 55 penetration and 78 damage, so this is really fearsome. This can go in the SVD, the SVT, the Mosin, all of those kind of guys, or the SV98 if you're sniping. And this will deal with Class 6 armor relatively well. It's a 40% chance to go through on the very first hit, so this is pretty scary even if people are wearing the GAC SSS Class 6 plate that you can barter for these days with sticks of RAM. And in something like an SVT or an AVT, this is actually really quite budget as well. And then the final one that we've got is probably the best ammo in the game at the moment. I'm crafting this all the time. 7.62 by 51 NATO is the perfect balance between caliber power and weapon usability. The problem with 54R is the weapons aren't that good. We just heard them, right? The SVT, the SVD, they're not that great. Whereas in 7.62 NATO, you've got really nice weapons like the MDR, you've got the AK-308, you've got the SCAR, you've got the SR-25. There's so many good guns here. And with 55 pen and 75 damage, it basically does the same as BT, except out of weapons that are totally usable. You can use them on full auto, they're fully modular, you can have high ergo, you can have big magazines. The world's your oyster when it comes to this stuff. Now, the helixes are getting more and more expensive. This is the reason why helixes are so pricey right now in the game, because the red gunpowder is easy to come across. You do need M80 as well, once you've got that unlocked to be able to craft it. But this stuff is so good, and 40 at a time, it only takes an hour and a half with my level of crafting, which is pretty good, and you can just craft this on loop. It's very useful if you have max crafting, because that means that you can then build the gunpowder that you need for it. So I'm making red out of green, and I'm making green out of grenades that you can buy. So you can run one of these and then run the red and run one of these and then run the green. And these two add up to this basically. So you can make one set of greens and one set of reds every time that you make one set of M80A1, which is really useful. I've been using this a lot. This is probably the best ammo that you can be using right now, just run of the mill. And I'm using this typically in the AK-308 because it's the best bang for buck, or an MDI if I have one lying around. Now, one ammo that I haven't talked about that is technically unlockable is the spear ammo. The reason for this is you have to go through all of Lightkeeper's tasks all the way to the end. The spear is not purchasable on the flea market. You can technically get it off ref. So if you have a look at where you get this gun, you can buy them off ref and then buy them off Peacekeeper once you've done Trouble in the Big City from Lightkeeper. This also unlocks the 25 rounder magazine, and it unlocks Hybrid, SIG Hybrid, which is probably the best round in the game for the performance you get. 47 pen, but with 72 damage. This thing is like BP on crack, and is absolutely insane because the fire rate of the SIG Spear is 800, so it's a bit like an M4 firing BP, but even better because of the damage level on it. And simply the recoil on the Spear, and combined with this ammo, means that this is one of the best combinations in the entire game. It's modular, you don't have to worry about heat like you do with the 9x39 weapons. The recoil is a lot lower than 7.62 NATO, but this is so difficult to get access to, you just never ever see it. I've not even seen any SIG Hybrid this white, and going and buying the gun off ref just to use the regular ammo, it just doesn't really seem worth it. So there you have it, the full ammo guide from top to bottom. If you want to know how to protect yourself against these, go and watch my armor video that goes through all of the different plates and the efficient armors that you can wear, so go and watch that next. Otherwise, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.